concept of the right and left hand paths have come up in discussion several times. People have asked me about that. I did talk about that a while back, and there's a lot of detail that you can go into depending on who are defining those terms. I call what I do the ambidextrous path because if we look at some definitions of what the right and left-hand path can mean, and it's hard to get a consensus because everybody's got their own definitions. But if the left-hand path is self-directed, it's sorcerous, it's my will be done. Whereas the right-hand path has to do with thy will be done. I'm nothing but a conduit for the infinite, whereas the left-hand path is self-directed. I'm responsible for my own growth, for my own magic, for my own results. I like them both because there are times when a sorcerous, self-directed experience is more appropriate, and there are times when a surrendered, higher purpose is more appropriate. All through the day, I need to travel the left-hand path. I need to make up my mind. I need to make decisions. I need to direct my mind in certain ways. That's my responsibility. I can't say, oh, God, you do this for me. It's all up to you. In the Psalms, it's very clear that the higher doesn't come in uninvited, doesn't do anything without our permission, doesn't do anything for us that it can't do through us. We must be the ones that say, thy will be done. That's our decision. So that by definition is a left-hand path, if we're just talking about it as being self-directed, that is a left-hand path perspective. And I have to be the one to say no to certain parts of my life. I have to be the one to say no to certain people in my life. I have to be the one to bind certain behavior from my life and put up certain boundaries in my life. I can't just say, oh, you do it for me because I'm going to release myself of all culpability and responsibility, and I'm just going to be a spineless jellyfish floating around and your will be done. But by the same token, I have to also recognize that I'm not self-created. I may be self-determined, but I'm not self-created. And I'm not as smart as I want to believe I am. My own best thinking sometimes gets me into trouble. So a complete left-hand path for me is dangerous for myself and others because I can't be trusted. I've proven that to myself time and time again. And it's what I call the Aunt Clara syndrome. We talked a little bit about this in the Psalm spell that we did yesterday. So the Aunt Clara syndrome, and I'm going to just give you a couple examples from my own life. There's been times in my magical upbringing and training where I decided that I needed to have certain things go a certain way. And I didn't check in with a higher power. I didn't check in with an intelligence that was smarter than my surface mind. And I said, I'm doing this because I am the magician and I get to have what I want and what I say goes. And it worked. And I was miserable again and again. I got that relationship. I hated it. I got that job. I hated it. So I was able to direct myself in certain ways where my magic worked, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be because I wasn't intelligent enough to know all of the ins and outs of everything. So I needed to have a little right-handed experience. Whereas there's been times in my life where I've just said, oh, infinite intelligence, you take over and I'm just going to follow along with you. And nothing got done. Literally nothing got done. I got all into debt. None of my bills got paid. I didn't get the repairs done on my home that needed to get done because, oh, I'm nothing but your humble servant. Well, we know that infinite intelligence doesn't operate that way. I mean, it might feel good in the moment to say, oh, you take over, but Jesus take the wheel does not work in magic. I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. I need to have a nice balance between the two. I need to know where I have the responsibility and where I don't know enough to have the responsibility. I need to make sure that my right hand knows what my left hand is doing and vice versa. I need to have my minds come together. I can't just work on the left. I can't just work on the right. I have to have both of them together. I have to be ambidextrous. Now, I want to talk about Aunt Clara for a minute. For those of you that may be a younger generation, there used to be a situation comedy called Bewitched. It was very successful in the 60s and a little bit into the 70s. In the mythos of this, there were mortals, which is normal people, and then there were witches. Now, witches weren't immortal, but they were not mortal. They didn't die, but they did get older very slowly. And eventually they became stardust. They became sunlight. They became the different phenomena, right? In this story, there was a young witch named Samantha who married a mortal. And of course, the mixed marriage was not a happy thing for any side. Everybody had a problem with that. But Samantha had an aunt named Clara who was an aging witch. And she actually was very supportive of the marriage. And she was a sweet thing. And her magic always went haywire. She always was trying to help. And the more she tried to help, the more she messed stuff up because her magic was haywire. Now, in the storyline, they kind of blamed her mess ups on her age. But I know the Aunt Clara personality type very well. And they're like that when they're young too. I'm an Aunt Clara. I mean well, but sometimes I just go, oops, I just mess up. Sometimes I just mess up. Not the best person to be working in an exclusively left-handed path because I'm a danger to myself and others when it's just the left-hand path. And there's been many times when I've done stupid things with my magic. I didn't mean to, and I created an earthquake. I created a flood. I created all kinds of weird stuff, which people might think is funny, but it's not funny. There was another situation comedy from England called Absolutely Fabulous, and it was hilarious. It was about these two alcoholics that were aging and their antics, and it was really funny. But you know, I know those people in real life. In real life, it's not funny. It's only funny on TV. And the same goes with the Aunt Clara syndrome. It was sweet, it was cute, it was funny, but only on TV. It's not funny in real life. In real life, those kinds of problems are real that you can create with your magic. So I know for myself that I make goofs all the time, and it's just part of my personality, and I will do them forever. It's never going to change. No matter how careful I try to be, I'm always going to make mistakes. I'm always going to goof. I'm always going to transpose two letters. I'm always going to go the wrong way in the circle. There's always going to be something that I do that messes something up. So what I've found over time that I needed to do was to, when I approach any magical situation, even from a left-hand path perspective, I need to bring the right hand into that a little bit so that I can say this or something better according to infinite will. This or something better according to infinite will. And it's not that I'm saying, infinite will, you come in and do my work for me. I'm saying, I'm doing my work and I know I might be making a mistake, so please help me. Please help me to make sure that it's this or something even better so that I'm not stuck with the results of something that are not really for my highest good. This or something even better. Now, that's not very left-hand path, but it's not very right-hand path either, because on the right-hand path, it would just be, oh, you do it for me. You take over. The rituals of the right-hand path are all simply devotional. There's no real act of will involved other than my will is to praise the infinite. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The right-hand path is then depicted as pure religion, whereas the left-hand path is depicted as the stuff that works. I don't remember who said that. It might have been Crowley. I don't remember. Somebody said white magic is poetry and black magic is everything that works. And actually, there's a little truth to that. But you want to be able to have both. You want to be able to have both. You want to be able to be not only self-directed, I want to be able to ask for guidance. I want to be able to recognize that I don't know everything. I don't know what's going to make me happy. I think I do, but time and time again, I've done spells on the things that I just was certain was going to make me happy, and it became a burden. It wasn't that which made me happy. And so I would try again and try again and try again. And in the midst of all of that, sometimes I would get what I want only after a few Aunt Clara goofs. So not only did I get what I thought I wanted and it didn't make me happy, but I created havoc in the meantime. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case for you, because you might be a lot better at never making mistakes. But my experience with a pure left-handed path approach for myself only is that I can't be trusted. I just can't. I cannot be trusted with that because I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough at it. Even at my most skilled, I'm going to screw it up. History proves this. So rather than me trying to make sure I never ever make a mistake again, what I do is I bring in infinite intelligence to come and help fill in the gaps where I screw up, fill in the gaps where I don't understand it, and also tweak my entire goal in case I'm off base, so that I'm not spending and wasting so much time on operations to bring me things that aren't going to make me happy, that are just basically, I look at it and say, well, at least I learned a lesson here that's not going to make me happy. But what a waste of time. I could have opened my mind and asked for guidance and started on goals toward things that would make me happy. In working magic, knowing that basically I'm Aunt Clara on steroids a lot of times, even when I try my hardest, and I was like that when I was young, so I can't blame it on age. In fact, I've gotten better with age, not worse. But since I know that that's probably the case, because I've proven it time and time again, that I'm a little dangerous to be around when it's just me and just my sorcery, that it's best for me to know that going in and to call in my angels, to call in my guides. In fact, that's why I started working angel magic to begin with, because it gave me the results that I needed. But there were also some safeguards because I was actually under the care and guidance of my angels rather than just out there all by myself all the time. Now, again, when I talk about left-hand and right-hand path here, I'm only defining them in these very limited terms for this particular talk today. There's a lot of different perspectives and understandings of what those terms mean. And so please understand what I'm saying based on what we're talking about today. I'm not at all casting aspersions on people that walk a purely left or right-hand path. I'm just telling you what I do because I know that neither one works for me. Neither one by itself works for me. I have to have a path that's not even necessarily a middle path, but it's an ambidextrous path. It's a both-handed path because there are times when I need to assert my own will, but I want to assert my will under guidance. And for me, that is what Crowley means when Crowley says, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. So when we have love under will, that means that love is the guiding principle. And when love is the guiding principle and my will is only that love be manifest in any situation, that's not just some new agey platitude. It just means that love, meaning infinite intelligence, is guiding my thoughts, is guiding my magic, is guiding the direction that I'm taking. I'm not thinking all by myself and creating havoc for the people around me and for myself. A lot of the havoc that I used to create didn't bother me that much just because I'm used to living in my own kind of weirdness. But it was hard for other people because where there's havoc with magic, there is always fallout. And innocent people get the fallout that really don't deserve it. I had to finally recognize that this is not the way for me. I have to find a new way. So the new way for me was to find that ambidextrous path. And I invite you to just take a look at that and just say, well, wait a minute. Am I really so smart that I know exactly what's going to make me happy? Or am I willing to ask for guidance? Because what I've discovered is that infinite intelligence is never going to say, no, you may not have that. Usually it's, boy, we really want you to have that, but you're not asking for enough. It's really not enough for you. You really are shortchanging yourself. So usually when I bring infinite intelligence into the equation, not only do I find my way there more efficiently, but the there is much grander than anything that I could have come up with on my own. So it's not that infinite intelligence is going to limit me and say, no, you can't have what you want. So therefore I need to go and do it all by myself. It's usually infinite intelligence is saying, well, you're on the right track, but let's take this a little farther or a lot farther. Let's really go for it. Right? And infinite intelligence is not always there to say, okay, now we'll take over from here. Infinite intelligence is there to say, you have to do your part. The left hand needs to do its part, and then the right hand will come in and fill in the gaps. You have to do your part. You can't just expect us to do it all for you. But since you asked for help, here it is. Here's the help. Right? I go with both at the same time. Just like I have two hands, just like I have 2 feet, I have 2 eyes, I have 2 ears. Right? And so I have a single will, but that will is then actuated through both hands, not just one or the other. And that's what works for me. And that's how I deal with that. And that's how I also have learned to deal with my Aunt Clara syndrome. If I have a problem and I'm taking, for instance, a spell for a problem, like say I'm going to make a talisman for that problem, rather than now saying, like I used to, I want this and then this and then this and then this, and I would really map out each and every little detail of what I wanted because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, I'd usually get it. And it would usually be a disaster on at least one level or another. It was never exactly as good as I thought it was going to be, even though it was what I had on paper. Just by starting to add this or something better according to divine will. Just by adding that little caveat onto it, I all of a sudden became ambidextrous. I didn't have to give up my will. I didn't have to give up my vision. It wasn't like I just said, well, you give me something you think I'd like. Can you imagine calling Amazon and just say, could you send me something you think I like? I'm sure you're going to send me something pretty. Well, did you want clothes? Do you want a router? What do you want us to send you? So that's kind of what a lot of people on the right-hand path do. They say, well, just whatever you think would be nice for me. I'm just here to serve. That's not really going to get you the results that you want. It's much easier to have infinite intelligence help you if you do your part. Okay, no, I think I really want this. I want these things. This is what my vision is. But I know that I also sometimes really am off track. So please tweak this if you think that it would be good for me to get this tweaked. So this or something even better according to divine will helps me, because then it opens my mind up to the fact that my sorceress understanding of the solving of this problem may or may not be true, may or not be accurate. I've gotten to the point where it's usually not that far off base, but like I said before, it's frequently really limited. It's nothing compared to what infinite intelligence would rather see in that regard. But infinite intelligence doesn't come in uninvited. And to the degree that you do your homework, that you do your footwork, that you really have a vision of what you want, then infinite intelligence comes in and underwrites that. It does it through that, not instead of that. So you've got to do your part if you expect results. But instead of stopping with your part, then bring infinite intelligence into the mix and say this or something even better according to divine will, and see if you can't elevate that even more. Because if you allow yourself to be open and receptive to higher wisdom, you're going to recognize that a lot of the things that you think you know, a lot of the things that you think you understand are very limited, but that you can learn those things as you achieve these goals and solve these problems by just opening your mind. Right? But not instead of doing your homework. You do your part and let infinite intelligence do its part, and together you co-create. It's not one or the other. It's a togetherness. And we want to be together. We want to have togetherness in our own minds. Because if we can have togetherness in our own minds, then we can start having togetherness in our lives and in our relationships and in our world. And that's where our happiness comes into play. We start to become happy. Not by having one hand or the other hand, but by having both hands. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Until next time, blessed be.